Flashbulbs were flashing at me from all sides, and applause was ringing out in the opulent auditorium of the Moscone Convention Center in San Francisco. I, Sarah Miller, founder and CEO of GreenSpark Innovations, had just stepped down from the podium to receive the Technology Pioneer of the Year award at the Global Clean Energy Summit. The euphoric feeling of pride and recognition was still fresh. Amidst the warm congratulations from colleagues, partners, and industry heavyweights, I suddenly stopped. A familiar, yet unfamiliar figure stood at the edge of the crowd, looking haggard and hesitant, looking at me with a complicated gaze. It was Jessica Miller, my sister. Jessica. The smile that had once been as bright as the prom queen at Northwood High, the long blonde hair that had made every boy in our small town swoon. The sister that the entire town of Clearview, Ohio had once looked up to and hailed as the epitome of perfection. The same sister who 17 years ago had stood before her parents, friends, and beloved teachers, pointed at me and screamed that I was a disgrace to the Miller family after skillfully staging the perfect play to destroy my future, my honor, and my dreams. Now that Disgrace, the sister she had tried to push down into the mud, was the one she sought out with tears in her eyes, slumped shoulders, and a silent plea on her lips. Life had a way of arranging ironic reunions. The Millers lived in Clearview, a small, quiet town in the American Midwest where everyone knew each other, and where family reputation and the children's achievements were of the utmost importance to parents. My father, John Miller, owned a successful hardware store in the center of town. My mother, Susan Miller, was a first-grade teacher, a gentle but somewhat impressionable woman. They were a typical American couple, hardworking, loving, and always wanted the best for us. My sister Jessica, 3 years older than me, was the golden girl of Clearview. Beautiful, vivacious, and always the center of attention. She was the cheerleader of the school prom queen for 2 years, and her name was always associated with the town's prominent social activities. Jessica was used to being praised and admired, and she never accepted that anyone, especially her less prominent sister, could outshine her. Sarah, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. I was quite a bookworm and spent most of my free time in the family garage, tinkering with circuits and experimenting with weird scientific ideas. I didn't have Jessica's glamorous looks, nor did I have her social skills or ability to draw crowds. But I had a sharp intellect, a burning passion for science and technology, and a creative streak that initially went unnoticed by many people, including my parents. The rivalry between us, in fact, mainly came from Jessica. She always felt that my intelligence and unique ideas were a potential threat to her star status, although I never intended to compete with her for the limelight. Whenever I achieved some academic achievement, even if it was just an A+ in physics or a compliment from a science teacher, Jessica would often show disdain or imply that I was just bookish or unrealistic. She skillfully used her beautiful appearance and speaking ability to win the hearts of her parents and everyone around her, making them always believe that she was the one with the brightest, most brilliant future. Then, a golden opportunity appeared, changing everything, and also the source of my tragedy. It was the National Science Innovators Challenge, a prestigious national science and technology innovation competition for high school students. The prize was not only a full scholarship to one of the top technology universities, such as MIT or Caltech, but also the opportunity to be noticed by major technology corporations, the perfect stepping stone for the future. Both Jessica and I signed up. Jessica joined perhaps because she wanted to prove her versatility, or because of pressure from her parents who always wanted their children to be well-rounded. But science and technology have never been her strong point. As for me, I saw in this competition an opportunity to realize my dream to let my long-cherished ideas fly high. I spent months diligently researching, designing, and building a breakthrough project on a high-efficiency solar battery model, using new nanomaterials with the potential for widespread application in households and remote communities. My project clearly had a superior advantage, was highly appreciated by teachers, and was considered one of the strong candidates for first prize. Jessica, of course, couldn't accept that. She couldn't bear the thought of her nerdy younger sister surpassing her and taking the glory that she had always thought was rightfully hers. Her fear of failure, of being overshadowed, and her long-simmering jealousy drove her to act ruthlessly. On the eve of the national finals, while I was doing a final check on my competition model in the school lab, Jessica sneaked in. She pretended to be interested, asked questions, and then took advantage of my inattention to deliberately damage an important electronic circuit in my model, rendering it inoperable. Not only that, she was even more sophisticated, preparing fake emails and cleverly edited text messages to falsely accuse me of cheating copying ideas from a published study by a Japanese professor, and even deliberately sabotaging other contestants' projects to eliminate my competitors. The next morning, when I discovered my model was broken and tried desperately to explain Jessica with a pained face and forced to tell the truth because her conscience did not allow it, unleashed those hard-hitting evidence in front of the judges, teachers, and even a few reporters from the local newspaper who came to cover the competition. Jessica's play was perfectly staged. In front of everyone, she, with tears in her eyes, her voice trembling with emotion and embarrassment, was forced to reveal evidence of the dishonest and unethical behavior of her loved younger sister. She played the role of a sister who was heartbroken but could not ignore the wrongdoing for the sake of the family's honor and the fairness of the competition. Her crocodile tears convinced almost everyone. My parents, John and Susan Miller, who had always prided themselves on being the perfect American family with two beautiful, talented daughters, were devastated by the truth. They could not believe that their youngest daughter, whom they had high hopes for, though not as openly as Jessica, could have done such a disgraceful thing. Anger, disappointment, and utter shame overwhelmed them. That night in the familiar living room of the family, which had witnessed so many warm moments, now became a place to judge me. Jessica, after perfectly completing her role, continued to add fuel to the fire. She stood there pointed straight at my face, her voice full of contempt and fake disappointment. "Sarah, you have shocked and disappointed me. You are the shame of the Miller family. How could you do such a despicable thing, something that has ruined the honor of the whole family?" My parents, in their rage and shame that their American dream of a talented, successful daughter had been shattered in the worst possible way, took it out on me. "How much hope we had in you, Sarah." My father roared, his face red with rage. "How could you betray our trust? Our family's trust with such a dishonest act? Do you know how much you have embarrassed us?" My mother could only cry tears of disappointment and helplessness. She looked at me with strange eyes as if I were a sinner. "I didn't expect you to be such a child, Sarah. I was so wrong to trust you." I tried to explain, tried to justify myself in desperation. I said that I was wronged, that Jessica had harmed me. But no one believed me. My words became meaningless before the evidence Jessica had presented, before her suffering, and before my parents' anger. I felt like the whole world had turned its back on me, drowning in a sea of injustice that I could not explain. Rumors of Sarah Miller's cheating scandal quickly spread throughout the small town of Clearview. In a community where news travels faster than the wind, my story became the talk of the town. My schoolmates began to avoid me, looking at me with disdain and gossiping behind my back. Neighbors who had once praised me as a smart, well-behaved girl now changed their attitudes, looking at my family with pity and disdain. Only one person, Ms. Evans, my science teacher who had guided me through the project, felt that something was wrong. She knew my abilities, my passion, and my honesty. She tried to talk privately with the principal and my parents, expressing her doubts about the evidence Jessica had provided. But under the pressure of public opinion, the perfection of Jessica's play, and the determination of the competition organizers who did not want to get involved in a complicated scandal, Ms. Evans's words became weak, not strong enough to change the situation. She could only look at me with pity and helplessness. The fallout from the scandal was devastating. The full scholarship to MIT that I had almost secured vanished. Other universities, hearing about my cheating, also rejected my application. The doors to my future that seemed wide open were slammed shut. My reputation in this small town was completely ruined. My parents, too, embarrassed and unable to bear the gossip of the neighbors, asked me to go away for a while, to avoid scandal for the family, to let things calm down. The atmosphere in the house became extremely stifling and tense. Every day was filled with criticism, disappointed looks, and heavy sighs. I couldn't stand it anymore. One rainy night, I decided to leave Clearview. Leave the house that had been my home. Leave the family that had turned their backs on me. I only brought a small backpack with a few sets of clothes, a little savings I had saved from my part-time job while I was still in school, and a broken, scarred heart. I didn't say goodbye to anyone, just quietly left in the dark, carrying the shame that my sister and my own family had placed on me. Not only did I lose my educational opportunities and my honor, I also lost the support and love of my loved ones. I was completely alone and helpless in life. The first few years after Clearview were the darkest and most difficult of my life. I arrived in Chicago, a big, unfamiliar city where no one knew me. I worked all sorts of odd jobs to make ends meet, waitressing in nightclubs, working in clothing stores, working in dusty warehouses. I lived in shabby, damp, rented rooms, dealing with loneliness deprivation and the lingering fear of Jessica's betrayal and my family's abandonment. But even in the most desperate moments, the fire of passion for science and the will to prove myself never died. I could not let those injustices ruin my life. I had to live, had to succeed not only for myself, but also to make those who had harmed me regret. Ms. Evans still keeps in touch with me via email from time to time, encouraging me not to give up on my dream and introducing me to some online technology courses that I can take in my spare time. Her words of encouragement, however small, are a great source of spiritual strength for me. Then one day, fate smiled on me. At a small renewable energy conference that I happened to attend after saving up enough money for a ticket, I had the opportunity to present my initial idea for a smart, efficient, and low-cost solar energy storage system. My presentation, despite its shortcomings, caught the attention of David Greenberg, a successful Jewish entrepreneur who runs a venture capital fund that specializes in finding young talent and innovative ideas. Mr. Greenberg, a man with a keen eye and a kind heart, saw in me not only intelligence and perseverance, but also a burning desire to succeed and extraordinary willpower of someone who had experienced adversity. He did not care about my past, did not ask about false rumors. He only believed in what he saw in the present, a young girl full of potential with ideas that could change the world. He decided to invest in my idea, and at the same time became a teacher, a mentor who guided me through the first steps on the thorny path of starting a business. Sarah, he told me, your past does not define you. It is what you do today and tomorrow that determines who you are. Turn the stones people throw at you into stepping stones to climb higher. With the invaluable support of Mr. Greenberg in terms of finance experience and connections, I founded Green Spark Innovations. My startup started out as a small office with a few employees, but we worked with passion and unwavering determination. We focused on researching and developing innovative technology solutions in the fields of clean energy and smart homes, which are not only profitable but also have a positive impact on the environment and society. The long nights in the lab, the seemingly insurmountable failures, the tense negotiations with investors, the financial and technical difficulties, none of them could stop me. The pain of the past was transformed into a powerful source of energy pushing me forward. And then our efforts paid off. Green Spark Innovations gradually made a name for itself in the industry with its innovative, efficient, and environmentally friendly products and solutions. The company grew rapidly, attracting more major investors and top talents. We expanded our market globally, becoming one of the world's leading technology corporations in our field. And I, Sarah Miller, the girl who was once considered the shame of the family by my small town, became a self-made millionaire, a symbol of resilience, overcoming difficulties and success in the international technology world. And now at the Global Clean Energy Summit, after my moment of glory on the podium, I was faced with Jessica, the sister who had tried to ruin everything for me. Jessica Miller, the golden girl of Clearview, now looked very different. Her once radiant beauty had been replaced by fatigue and haggardness. Her once bright blonde hair was now somewhat disheveled. Her once proud, sparkling blue eyes were now filled with tears, hiding despair and perhaps a little shame. The clothes she wore, despite her efforts to appear neat, could not hide their old, outdated appearance. I later learned that Jessica's life after I left was not as glorious as she had expected. Although she initially gained some fame from my scandal, people sympathized with the unfortunate older sister with a spoiled younger sister. Her real abilities were limited. She entered a mid-level university and graduated with a normal office job. Her marriage to a glamorous man who was actually addicted to gambling quickly fell apart, leaving her with a large debt. The small business she tried to build later also failed miserably. The star of the past now had to face the harsh reality of life with mounting bills, debt collection calls, and a completely uncertain future. In her desperation, with nowhere else to turn, Jessica read about the great success of Sarah Miller, the sister she once despised and harmed. Ignoring all shame, or perhaps because she had nothing left to lose, Jessica tried every way to get a ticket to this conference, with one last slim hope asking for help from the family shame of the past. After the important guests had gradually left, Jessica timidly approached me as I stood alone by the window, looking out at the San Francisco city lights shining brightly at night. I turned back, looking straight at Jessica. A little surprise flashed across my face at her current miserable state, but there was no gloating. A little sadness for what had once been a sisterly love, even if it was only one-sided from me, also crept in. But above all, there was a strange calmness, a strength and confidence of someone who had overcome too many storms, no longer haunted by the past. "Hello, Jessica." I said, my voice flat and emotionless. "Long time no see. Is there something you need?" Jessica was taken aback by my calmness. She must have been expecting a different reaction, anger, contempt, or even a little pity. But this cold, distant expression only made her more confused. She began to talk, her voice trembling and broken, about her difficult life, about her failures, about her debts, about her despair. Then she began to cry, tears rolling down her face, marked by time and worry. "Sarah, baby," she choked. I know I was wrong. I treated you so badly in the past. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me, and if you can, please help me a little. I don't know what to do anymore." I listened silently without interrupting or showing any emotion. When Jessica had finished speaking, when her sobs had gradually subsided, I slowly spoke. "Do you remember Jessica?" My voice remained calm, but there was an unmistakable sharpness. 17 years ago, you stood there in front of my parents, in front of everyone, and said that I was the shame of the Miller family. You did everything you could to ruin my future, to drag me down into the mud. So I wonder what made this shame, the sister you once despised and harmed, become the one you have to come to for help in desperation today. My words were like a bucket of cold water poured straight into Jessica's face. She was stunned, her face paled. The mask of remorse and pity finally broke, revealing a weak, scared person, and perhaps still a bit shameless. "Sarah, I know I don't deserve..." Jessica stuttered, avoiding my gaze. But we're sisters. Blood. Sisters." I sneered a smile without any warmth. "When you cruelly harmed me, when you gloated watching me being turned away by the whole world, did you ever think of the two words sisters, Jessica?" Jessica was completely devastated. She collapsed into a nearby chair, covering her face with her hands and sobbing. Her pride and complacency had disappeared without a trace, leaving only a defeated, hopeless woman filled with late regrets. My parents, after hearing that Jessica had come to see me, also tried to contact me by phone. They cried, begging me to forgive my sister's mistake and give her a hand. They said that they were very sorry for what had happened in the past, for not trusting and protecting me. The greatest punishment for Jessica, perhaps, was not my rejection, but having to witness the overwhelming success of the sister she had tried to destroy at all costs, and having to humble herself to beg that very person in her most desperate moment. It was a humiliation, a bitter lesson that life had given her. I looked at Jessica, no longer angry, only a vague pity. But pity didn't mean I would let it go easily. Didn't mean I would reach out to save someone who had tried to drown me. I can't help you solve the problems you created with your own bad choices and jealousy. Jessica, I said firmly, you have to take responsibility for your life, just as I have taken responsibility for mine after what you did. I've gotten over the past. Jessica, I continued, my voice softening. I don't hold grudges against you anymore because it only hurts me. And I think you should learn to face the truth. Learn to live an honest life and pick yourself up from your mistakes. I didn't promise to help Jessica financially directly. But I wasn't completely heartless either. If you really want to change, really want to start over, I said I can refer you to a career counseling organization or sponsor you for a skills course so you can find a stable job. But you have to make the effort yourself, Jessica. No one can live your life for you. As for my parents, I had frank conversations with them a few years ago when I first started to have success, and they tried to get back in touch. I made it clear the hurt, the pain they had caused me. They cried, apologized, expressed deep regret. I accepted their apologies, but I also made it clear that our relationship would never be completely the same again. You can forgive, but the scars are still there. We need time, a lot of time. I still keep in touch with them, occasionally calling to check in, but always keeping a certain distance. I left the waiting room, leaving Jessica with mixed emotions, a glimmer of hope if she really wanted to change, and a bitter lesson she would remember for the rest of her life. I felt a strange sense of relief, as if a dark, heavy chapter of my life had officially closed. The burden of the past had been lifted. I returned to my world with unfinished projects and plans. I cherish what I have: a successful career, wonderful colleagues, and especially Mr. David Greenberg, a teacher and great friend who has always believed in and supported me unconditionally. I am grateful to Ms. Evans, the teacher who planted the first seeds of hope in my heart. I will continue to devote myself to GreenSpark innovations, bringing advanced technology solutions and positive values to the world. I will live a happy and fulfilling life and maybe find a loving and understanding partner to build a real home with me, where there is no jealousy, no betrayal, only love and respect. They used to call me the shame of the family. But I did not let those words define me. I turned that shame into motivation, into strength to fight, to rise up, to build my own pride with my own hands and mind. And that is the strongest answer, the sweetest justice for all the injustices and bitterness that I had to go through in the past. When faced with her sister who once betrayed her and is now in dire straits, should Sarah completely refuse help, or should she give Jessica a small chance to start her life over, even if it is just indirect support with conditions? Does forgiveness mean having to give material help? If you were Sarah, how would you handle this situation to both maintain your self-respect and show compassion for your biological sister?